everybody. I'm Monica May. Welcome to One Take. Thank you. We do this every Thursday, 6 p.m., and it's a chance for us to just stay connected to our community. This evening, the East Coast is meeting the West Coast, and they're headed up north to Tallahassee. How about that? We have two powerful sisters with us. Pasha Baker is representing the West Coast, okay? She's representing the East Coast, actually. She's in Sanford running for Florida House seat, Democratic seat 28, and attorney.
Did she get frozen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She may have to pop out and come back in.
Yeah.
Is that through it all, there we are, through it all, you say, this is what I want to do. I'm going to represent my community. A native of Sanford, Florida. She's the executive director and the curator at the Goldsboro Museum there, but she's got an extensive political background, and just working with so many people. And we thank you for your service. And
we thank you for your service. Thank you for this platform, and thank you for having Michele and I on here tonight. We appreciate all that you do as well. I remember when you first come with to the Boys and Girls Club, every year you used to do it. Do you remember? And you used to have all the different vendors set up, and she would take a loved one to the doctor day for the radio, and it's like in its 10th year now.
Yeah.
It's been going on a while, and now we look at the course of the health pandemic.
Yeah.
And people getting healthy, but you started that track way before we ever heard of this virus or before it even existed. And so we thank you for your service as well. It doesn't go unnoticed.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much.
And that was just such a heinous way for a 28-year-old man to have to die in front of his family like that. And one of the things that we hated is that the shooter was just free to go. Right. So let's talk about that, Michele. And because you were out there for your families in that area, you came back to practice in your hometown.
Yeah, definitely. So, it was in that moment. I remember talking to Marquise's dad, Michael McLaughlin. We were talking about stand your ground, we were having a conversation. And, of course, everyone was like, oh, stand your ground. And he said something that was so profound. He said, I knew about, what happened to Trayvon Martin. I know about the stand your ground law, but I never thought it would personally touch my family, that it would come to my house. And then I think in that moment, it really made me understand in a really just practical way that the laws that we pass in Tallahassee, they impact everyday people, right? So is easy to have these like high level, highbrow conversations, these academic conversations about whether we're talking about, banning assault rifles, whether we're talking about stand your ground, or, whether we're talking about toll roads to nowhere, whatever we're talking about. It's easy to have these high level conversations, but then realizing it literally, these laws that are being passed, they affect people's lives. And when you kind of take that weight with you, you can't just agree to foolishness. You got to know and you got to interrogate. And one of my mentors, who I'm sure you know, Monica, former state senator Arthenia Joyner, She is one of the people that I was her aide, and I watched her say, like, no, just don't tell me anything. I'm going to make sure I know what I'm voting for and how it impacts people.
That's right.
One of the things that Michele and I were talking about a moment ago, Pasha, is that with this election that's coming up, especially the you all's election on the 18th, that there are people that are still just taking voting for granted.
That's
and I'm
right.
on a mission, as I'm sure both of you are, to make it so we can't do that. We don't have time to do that.
Right.
This past Monday was the last day to get registered for the August 18th election. Didn't do that, then all right, we'll catch you in November. But we needed you for this race that these ladies are in, the state attorney's race that's happening, the sheriff race. Every city, county, there are various offices that are open.
School
The
board
tax appraiser's office,
Yeah.
school boards. There's so much going on. And if I sound like I'm
judge races,
judges, yes.
That's right.
Okay. And in talking to a dear friend of all of ours, who is Desmond Meade, one of the things that he says, you don't realize that at the end of the day, if you can go home and wake up in the morning and vote, that's a privilege we take for granted.
Yeah.
But if you've had that right revoked, and you're fighting to get it back, you want to vote even in a dog catcher's race.
That's
correct.
You don't know what you had till it's gone, huh?
That's it. So, Pasha, talk to me, dear, about what your platform is going to be or is.
Definitely. Well, we've seen, just as we've talked a little bit when we came on this, about healthcare. We've had 2 family members that passed of COVID-19. We have it running through, and we know it's disproportionately affecting Black and brown people all over this country, but right here in our community more than anyone. We send back more federal aid from the state of Florida that could insure over 60 million people.
That's a lot.
And not even, we are the 4th largest economy in the country, the state of Florida, the 4th largest economy. And one of them is based off of tourism. Imagine how much stronger our economy would be if we had it based on healthcare jobs and research. That's what, not only would we insure many more people, and make sure that they have access to quality and decent healthcare. That's one. But 2, think of the jobs that are going to be created because you opened up that access. So that's 2 things. Definitely we care about jobs. 3, we're in another pandemic, and we're all 3 Black women and careers. We got to talk about our racial pandemic. As you mentioned, stand your ground. Miss May was there. Michele was there during Trayvon Martin. That kicked off the Black Lives Matter movement. That's now implicated the movement from the 60s in the civil rights movement. And as a person of color and as a woman, a Black woman, we have to make sure that we not only say Black Lives Matter, but we take that to the state legislature, because no one could ever walk in our shoes, no matter how much progressive they are and how much they may agree with the movement. It's a different story to walk in our shoes. And that's the plight that we take to the state legislature. So 1, we're going to talk about healthcare. 2, we got to talk about jobs. 3, we got to talk about the laws that are disproportionately affecting Black and brown people, and making sure that there are body cams on every officer to protect them and to protect us. We got to make sure that we're not throwing out irrelevant sentencing. And the bail bonds that have been disproportionately affecting Black and brown people as well. That system needs to be overhauled. So policy laws that we can actually change in 2021, the first day we get there. It started making wrongs, starting making rights, and making sure that we can move the conversation forward, and we change it from the inside out. And that's what
Okay.
we plan to do.
Okay. All right. So when we go back over to the West Coast and we talk about District 70, tell me a little bit more, Michelle, about that background over there and what you think Floridians deserve in that area.
Well, I mean, I think it's a lot of what Pasha has said. You know, right now we have a pandemic, and I have families in our community that are trying to decide if they're going to pay their rent or mortgage, or if they can get health care or have access to health care. We have folks who literally cannot afford to be without work because of COVID. They cannot afford to
That's
get
right.
sick. They cannot afford to have COVID. And I saw something on Facebook. Someone had said, "Oh, well, if they don't open schools, I'll just get a private, teacher." And I'm like, well, that's like really wonderful for you that you're able to do that. But that's not the reality for the majority of the folks in District 70. So one of the things that I think that we have to get really serious about is that, the best way for me to say is we have to do an autopsy on how we have handled this pandemic, or the lack of handling of this pandemic.
Right.
We still have folks that are literally dealing with trying to get unemployment, right? And I've been saying that the unemployment system has been working exactly as designed, ineffectively. It's not streamlined. There are people that have still been waiting on their payments. You only get $275 a week, which no one can live on. And then you only have it for a certain amount of time. You don't have it for an extended period of time. And what we're seeing right now is folks aren't able to get back into work. So one, I think that we have to really do an autopsy on the Florida Department of Economic Opportunities and the unemployment system. Two, we need to talk about the lack of preparedness for a pandemic period. It's literally, we knew it was coming. And we had a governor and some of folks who are in Republican leadership that were more concerned about Donald Trump than the people of the state of Florida, right? And that's not everyone, but there was a handful, the ones that were making those decisions. So we need to look at, how do we handle this pandemic? Because it's going to be happening when we get elected and when we get sworn in. This pandemic is not going away anytime soon. I wish it would, but I think we have to face the harsh reality that is continuing happening. So we have to look at healthcare. We have to make sure that people are able to work and live and thrive in this environment. And also, we have an issue going on with our schools. Our kids are trying to go back to school, and there's like no PPE, there's no real plan, there's nothing. And then we look at the digital divide in our communities. So I think, unfortunately, what's happening in District 70 is also happening in District 28, and also happening all around the state of Florida.
Yes, ma'am, it is. You're right.
You're absolutely right. I was on a radio show about an hour ago, and I was talking with a tax appraiser. And the money that has been regained or can go back into our economy in terms of taxes that were recovered from Disney and Universal and SeaWorld, just some of the theme parks here, actually, from what I'm understanding, can go back into the educational pot. But what they do with it, that budget is already done. The budget was done pre-pandemic, but as you just said, Attorney Rayner, we're not pandemic ready. So why not make changes now? We need affordable housing. We need better jobs, as you said. We need to look at the effective change of some of our laws that are affecting our policing. There's so much that the state of Florida has to do. You all have big plates, heavy, the servers that come around. Are your fingers ready for that? Are you ready to do heavy lifting? If I had to ask you a question, Pasha, what makes you ready for this heavy lifting?
Actually, I've been doing this heavy lifting now for over 4 years. And so I write all of the policy as a museum director. I write all of the policy and legislation, not just only for my museum, but for all 32 plus Black museums in the state of Florida. And those bills are sponsored. And because one of the things that we're seeing is history repeating itself.
Oh, yeah.
That's the biggest thing we have seen, not just with the pandemic, because there was a Spanish flu, and not in our lifetime, but in the last lifetime, there was a Spanish flu, that pandemic in 1918. But within our lifetime, it was 10 years ago with the Ebola virus.
Mhm.
Nearly 10 years ago with the Ebola virus. So we're seeing history repeat itself. And especially on the racial infronts, we're still fighting and marching for the same things. And people are still saying, I don't understand, or I don't get it. And that's where history has to bridge the gap, and where it has to be taught at all levels in schools. And so that's the work that I've been doing. So now, to add to that, in the state legislature, to make sure we're fighting for unemployment, like Michele said. No,
Mhm.
who can live off of $275 a week? The system was designed for it to fail. And so
Mhm.
we have to acknowledge that and fix those problems. We know the problems, and we know the solutions to those problems. Now it's time for people to say what they're going to do and do
Mm-hmm.
them. We have enough black and brown faces. We
Mhm.
need black and brown voices, and that
Amen.
Amen.
actually do the work.
So,
Amen.
Yeah.
Pasha, how will you get people out for the August 18th election in your community? I know putting up your placards or your signs, I know that that's one way. During this pandemic,
We've been working.
rallies, what are you doing?
Actually, um, we did a phone banking platform, and
Mhm.
we started in March, and we have never stopped. And it's not just on the weekends, we do it actually every day.
Okay.
So we've reached an enormous amount of people. It's going to be in the tens of thousands that we've reached in our district, as well as with mailers. We have a comprehensive mail campaign and a texting platform campaign. We've been on the news 7 times since the start of our race.
Mhm.
As well as our social media platforms and digital ad platforms. So we've been able to use technology and use the latest and greatest, but also just pick up the phone and call people. That
That's
still works. It
that
still
still
works.
works. All right. Pasha Baker, Florida House District 28. Again, the election is August 18th. Attorney Michele Rayner is in District 70. That's over on the
Yes.
Clearwater side. And we know that she's talking
So
about
we will be clear. No, it's St. Pete, St. Pete,
The
St. Pete,
bird.
Manatee, the Berg. Now they
We
don't
the
play them
bird.
games. Now they'll be
oh,
like, nope. Listen, the Berg is not.
the Clearwater
That's
area,
right.
running for
Yes,
District
I am from.
70.
Yes,
So who's that area? Tell me that
yes.
area.
So District 70 is South St. Pete, so South Pinellas County, Manatee, a sliver of Manatee, going into North Sarasota in a pocket of Hillsborough County. It is the
That's a
definition of
large
gerrymandering.
district.
It's the
Yeah.
and it is,
Oh,
and it's the definition of gerrymandering. It is.
wow.
Wow.
Okay.
So you're talking about that's a lot. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right,
you're
that's a lot.
housing, you're talking about healthcare, you're talking about education, criminal justice reform. Let's talk about that for a moment. And for those of you who are just tuning in, I wanted the East Coast of our area to match up with the West Coast. These two women are running for two very crucial seats in the Florida House. Again, the election day is August 18th, and I wanted you to get a chance to meet them. So we typically only do 15 minutes, but that's for one person. I always say CNN will give you 11. Let me give you a few extras. Anything over that is going to be fluff, but this is really interesting stuff, and it's important to hear these two Black women
Yes.
running for their seats and what their platforms are. We didn't talk about your criminal justice reform part of your platform.
Yeah, that's a huge part because that's what I do, right? And so I think that one of the things that we know and our dear friend has talked about, and we know that it's under attack, Amendment 4. And so I know that battle will be coming up again in in the state house. And so we need to have folks who are able to know what it is and be able to protect it on all sides and be able to speak truth to power. But also one of the big areas of my heart and just in the work that I do and work I've done with Senator Dale Rusan is, juvenile justice, our babies, making sure that our kids have access to diversionary programs like every other child has access to diversionary programs, making sure that we start cutting off the school to prison pipeline. So that school to prison pipeline, you're dealing with education, but you're also dealing with the criminal justice system. And having opportunities for our children to actually learn and to grow. And I know one bill one appropriation that Senator Rousseau was able to bring back to St. Petersburg when I was working with him in the bar association that I'm involved in, is that it is a jobs bill. And the jobs bill was essentially to help organizations or small businesses to be able to employ children. And some of these children had criminal justice, criminal records, like at 15, they had felonies. And so they weren't able to be hired. So with this, money, this appropriation, we were able to place these kids in these jobs, be able to give this money to these businesses so they're able to pay these kids. And then you started seeing that these kids weren't back out, committing any more crimes or new crimes, but they started to have pride in their job. They started to have pride in being able to have something to show for it. And I think with our children, people think, oh, they're going to be out there committing crimes. Sometimes they need an opportunity. Sometimes they need an opportunity to show that they're able to do and be all the things that we say that they can be.
It is time for us to putting the effort back into our young people, because here's the one thing that I say: for each of these seats that is being held by someone 60, 70 plus, my age group, if we don't have somebody your age and then you all have somebody younger and you all have a platform to keep it going down, we're going to be sitting in these seats forever and we're not going to be making any change. This is no affront to my senior. I'm just making sure that you have a junior behind you. And then I'm also making sure that those juniors have our youth in mind, because if not, we keep saying we're going to lose a generation, but it's up to us to make sure that they have something to thrive with. And that's the thing. Jobs are needed. Education is going to be needed, but also the mentoring piece is going to be needed, and changes in our laws. That diversionary piece is very good. Well, ladies, how can we reach back out to you if we want to make donations or if we want to find out a little bit more? What are your web addresses? Michele?
Yes, so you can go to www.michele, it has one L in it, so not P, one L, www.michelleforflorida.com, and you can find out everything about me, more about my platform, how to donate. Our endorsements just got the Tampa Bay Times endorsement today, so super excited about that. Woo! We're on our way, guys. But please go connect with me. I'm on Facebook as well, Michele Rayner, -Goolsby is my personal page. But reach out to me. I'm very accessible. So thank you so much, Monica, for this opportunity. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for agreeing. Miss Pasha, how can we reach you to make donations and to find out more about your platforms?
Thank you. And mine is just simply my first and last name, PashaBaker.com. You can reach us there. You can reach us on social media, on any of those platforms. Be much appreciated. If you wanted to phone bank, if you wanted to contribute a few dollars, we thank you for it. And of course, again, Miss Monica, thank you so much for having us on your show and speaking about this. This is important, and you hit on all the topics as well.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Thank you.
If I don't miss anything about radio, it was this part of it. I love talking to people and making sure that they can stay connected. This is One Take. Now, next Thursday, we're going to be talking to Senator Randy Bracy. Now, this is interesting.
He does good work.
I said, you have my phone, anybody? I said, listen, just text me while I'm on live and just say yes to the voice message that I left you, right? And I'm going to check now to see if he did it, because his aide, Miss Charlene, and he said yes. Okay, so now I can tell you. I told you this is live, y'all. First of all, I was just sharing with somebody. One Take, I do my best thoughts or creative processing in the water. So one morning, the two words came to me, and it was One Take. It's because when I would go into production, I could do a commercial looking at it in one take. I don't like production, so I'm going to get in and I'm going to get out, okay? I wanted to do something where in one take with no edits, we could just hear your platforms. So Randy and I, Senator Bracy and I, we're talking, and he's bringing on a whole nother component to get out the vote, and it's called Voice for Votes. And so,
yes, I heard about that. Someone
yes,
reached out to me to get involved in that. Yes.
I don't know if you can, but I wish that you would. It's August 1st at the Experience Christian Center, and that's in the Pine Hill area.
I saw he just posted on that. That's right.
Yeah, that's on Indian Hills. So we want you to come out there. There'll be entertainment, and everything is going to be done in a socially distanced and proper way. But we're doing food distribution. There'll be food trucks out there. It's just going to be a lot of fun. But the biggest thing is we want to get people registered in there. And listen, what we're doing the registration for is not obviously for the August 18th. It'll be for the November election.
Right.
We got to get you motivated. And for those of you who are already registered, we want to make sure to encourage you to get out there and vote August 18th.
That's right.
Women that you can send to Tallahassee and just like that. All right. So do that. Thank you so much, Pasha Baker.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much. Attorney Michelle, thank you so much as well.
Thank you. Appreciate you so much.
Michelle.
Thank you. Good luck, Pasha. We got this.
Yes, y'all got
See you in
this.
Tallahassee.
That's what I want to hear. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.